Shit. So, yes, I am back. I'm really sorry about that, my viewers, but I've been like busy, very busy. Life में काफ़ी सारे changes आए हैं. A lot of them are positive, so nothing to worry about. I'm good. But thing is, I was, suffering, struggling. I'm really sorry. I have been reading Berserk recently, and yeah, it is a very good manga. And talking about Berserk, we're gonna talk about a game that is heavily inspired by it and some other Western fantasy and other fantasy things. That game is, of course, DragonsDogma, one of my all-time favorite action RPGs, and that game is good. But sadly, still to this day, DragonsDogma is not that well known for a lot of reasons and some really, really, really good reasons. Okay, honestly, that game is not perfect. We all know that, I think. But first of all, I'm gonna talk about the person who directed that game and whose vision it was. Because I think हमारी गेमिंग इंडस्ट्री हमारे पास बहुत सारे बिग डेवलपर्स हैं, बिग डायरेक्टर्स हैं जिन्हें हम ऑटोज कहते हैं. लेट्स जस्ट से वी हैव और कोजिमा-san, we have Miyazaki-san, we have Hideki Kamiya-san, but there are some directors who are like still not very well known, and one of them is the legendary Hideaki Itsuno. Born on August 25th, 1970, Osaka, Japan, we don't know much about Hideaki Itsuno's early life before joining Capcom in 1995, जहाँ पर उन्होंने many games plan and direct किए. Games like Capcom vs SNK2, Street Fighter Alpha series, Darkstalker series, Power Stone, Rival Schools, and many others. And by early 2000s, Hideaki Itsuno wanted to make an action RPG. But during that time, one of the games being developed in Capcom was DMC2, which was developed and directed by an entirely different team compared to DMC1. So Capcom higher-ups ने उस गेम को basically fix करने के लिए Hideaki Itsuno को उस गेम का new director assign किया. And he tried to fix that game as much as he can, जितना भी उनके पास time था, but despite everything, it was considered a downgrade and even a bad game compared to DMC1. And to fix his image and अपने portfolio से DMC2 को हटाने के लिए, he basically asked to direct another game in DMC series, which became the legendary DevilMayCry 3, जिसने hack and slash genre में एक completely new bar set किया, and still to this day, it is a very amazing game. Capcom, please remake it, and even DMC series, the first game even. And after it, he directed DMC4, which was released in 2008. After directing 2 DMC games continuously, Hideaki Itsuno एक different game direct करना चाहते थे, and he chose DragonsDogma. But ever since the conceptualization of DragonsDogma in early 2000s, RPG genre drastically बदल चुकी थी, especially in West, जहाँ पर हमारे पास games थे like Fable and Oblivion, जो अपने choices and consequences and sandbox open world के लिए जाने जाते थे. So Itsuno-san wanted to develop a game inspired by those games, basically a Western RPG developed by a Japanese developer. But he wanted to focus on action because most of the Western RPGs didn't really had a good combat system. And as someone who has directed mostly action games and fighting games in his career, he knew how to direct a good combat. For the world, tone and setting of DragonsDogma, Hideaki Itsuno-san ने many different fantasy literatures का सहारा लिया. A manga like Berserk, जो DragonsDogma के overall world and tone को heavily inspire करती है, and game में कुछ quest भी है जो directly Berserk के कुछ plot points से inspired हैं. Other than Berserk, The Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons इस overall world की many different aspects को inspire करते हैं, from its quest to its monster design. So basically Itsuno-san एक fantasy simulator बनाना चाहते थे जो heavily inspired है इन सभी well-regarded fantasy literature से, and in my personal opinion, he was successful partially. If we talk about the overall world and its tone, because ये काफ़ी like grounded medieval fantasy जैसा फील होता है, like basically like Berserk, जहाँ पर हमारे पास काफ़ी high fantasy aspects हैं, but it is mostly grounded in its world. Other than that, DragonsDogma का जो most unique mechanic है, pawn system, इसे Fellowship of the Ring वाली feeling देती है, जहाँ हमारे कंपेनियंस के साथ, हमारी पार्टी के साथ एक एडवेंचर पे निकले हैं, एक्सप्लोरिंग दिस ह्यूज वर्ल्ड. एंड अबाउट पॉन सिस्टम, इट्स बेसिकली मल्टीप्लेयर बट नॉट रियली. इत्सुनो-सान अपने गेम में एक मल्टीप्लेयर एस्पेक्ट इंट्रोड्यूस कराना चाहते थे विद दिस पार्टी सिस्टम. सो इंस्टेड ऑफ मेकिंग अ मल्टीप्लेयर गेम जहाँ पर प्लेयर्स को अदर प्लेयर्स की वजह से इनकन्वीनियंस फील हो, Itsuno-san basically made an entirely new AI companion system, जहाँ पर प्लेयर्स अदर दैन हिज मेन कैरेक्टर एक डिफरेंट साइड कैरेक्टर क्रिएट करते हैं जो गेम में हमारा मेन कंपेनियन, हमारा मेन पॉन होता है। एंड पॉन्स आर बेसिकली बेबीज वो प्लेयर्स एक्शंस को देखते हुए चीज़ें सीखते हैं, उसके अकॉर्डिंग रिएक्ट करते हैं। इफ़ प्लेयर्स अप फ्रंट एनिमीज़ को चैलेंज करते हैं देन द पॉन विल डू द सेम थिंग। इफ़ प्लेयर्स वांट द पॉन टू बी सपोर्टिव देन दे विल बिकम सपोर्टिव ओवर टाइम, दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग। एंड जैसे जैसे पॉन्स इस वर्ल्ड को एक्सप्लोर करते हैं, डिफरेंट एनिमीज से फाइट करते हैं, दे विल लर्न अबाउट दिस वर्ल्ड, पर्टिकुलर क्वेस्ट एंड एनिमीज। एंड अदर प्लेयर्स हमारे मेन पॉन को हायर कर सकते हैं फॉर देयर पार्टी, एंड हमारा पॉन उस अदर प्लेयर की हेल्प करेगा इन दोज क्वेस्ट एंड अगेंस्ट दोज मॉन्स्टर्स बिकॉज ही हैज़ दैट नॉलेज रिगार्डिंग दैट। सो ये काफ़ी डायनेमिक एंड अडेप्टिव AI है विच इज़ नेवर बिन यूज इन एनी अदर गेम, and it's a shame because it is a very cool mechanic. So the players can really create the fellowship of the ring if they want to, जहाँ पर हमारे पास टोटल 4 characters होते हैं including ourselves, and the party can be fighter, strider, mage and tank, and it is very fun to do. Mixing and matching pawn and other players के pawn को discover करना and how they adapt according to their player, it is very fun because we can have many unexpected moments because of the system. Emergent gameplay, as we say, that dynamic mechanics, that dynamic world and gameplay system, that is like the best thing about this game. And talking about the best thing, the combat. अगर हम combat की बात करें then ये एक mix है between DevilMayCry, Monster Hunter and Shadow of Colossus because of the climbing mechanic. गेम में टोटल 9 डिफरेंट क्लासेस हैं, बेसिक, एडवांस्ड एंड हाइब्रिड, एंड मोस्ट ऑफ दीज क्लासेस एक दूसरे से काफ़ी डिस्टिंक्टली फील करती है अदर देन हाइब्रिड क्लासेस जो बेसिक एंड एडवांस क्लासेस का मिक्स है। बट डिस्पाइट एवरीथिंग ऑल ऑफ दीज क्लासेस हैव देयर ओन यूनिक स्टैट्स एंड स्किल्स जो हर एक क्लास को डिफरेंट फील कराता है। फाइटर एक स्ट्रिक्टली स्वॉर्ड एंड शील्ड बेस्ड क्लास है जो बोथ डिफेंसिव एंड ऑफेंसिव कैपेबिलिटीज रखता है। स्ट्राइडर इज ऑल अबाउट दैट DPS एंड हाई स्पीड एंड मोमेंटम जहाँ पर प्लेयर्स के पास बो एंड एरो एंड डैगर हैं, ऑल अबाउट फास्ट मूवमेंट एंड फास्ट अटैक्स। मेज एंड सॉर्सरर आर 2 डिस्टिंक्ट क्लासेस जहाँ पर मेज सपोर्टिव मैजिक पर फोकस करता है एंड सॉर्सरर ऑफेंसिव मैजिक पर। रेंजर क्लास जो एज द नेम सजेस्ट अपने बो एंड एरो पर मोस्टली फोकस करती है विद डैगर बीइंग द सेकेंडरी वेपन। असासिन जो गेम की मोस्ट वर्सेटाइल क्लास है एंड 4 वेपन एंड सेकेंडरी वेपन इक्विप कर सकता है, स्वॉर्ड, शील्ड, डैगर एंड बो एंड एरो। एंड फाइनली माई लव, माई फेवरेट एंड फॉर ट्रू स्ट्रगलर्स, वॉरियर. It is the guts class. Basically it is the guts class. Those heavy, chunky weapons, you're slashing them. It's that kind of class. Because your damage output here is like huge. It's massive, and some of the attacks can like one hit most of the enemies, and the feel, the weight, how the attacks goes, the swings, magic. It is magic. Like it is a very like अगर हम बात करें स्किल्स की, अदर क्लासेस के पास अराउंड 4 to 6 स्किल्स हैं, स्पेशली इफ यू टॉक अबाउट मेज एंड सॉर्सरर्स, बट वॉरियर इज़ अ वेरी लिमिटेड क्लास जहाँ पर पास अराउंड 3 to 4 स्किल्स हैं. इट कैन बी बिट लिमिटिंग बट डिस्पाइट एवरीथिंग, या दिस क्लास फील्स वेरी गुड टू प्ले. अदर देन दैट वी हैव सम वेरी वेरी यूनिक क्लासेस जो मुझे ड्रैगन्स डॉगमा के अलावा कहीं और पर्सनली देखने को नहीं मिली. क्लास लाइक मैजिक आर्चर जहाँ हमारे पास एक मैजिकल बो है विच फायर्स मैजिक एरो, ब्लास्ट एरो, सीकर एरो एंड डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स लाइक दैट. एंड मिस्टिक नाइट जो एक मिक्स है बिटवीन फाइटर एंड सॉर्सरर जो अपनी शील्ड को एज एन वेपन यूज़ करता है विद इट बीइंग enhanced with magic, and players can perfect parry and it will damage the enemies with the elements that you have enchanted your shield with. Very cool mechanic, very cool mechanic. So all of these classes and mechanics इस gameplay को काफ़ी different feel देती है. It feels very grounded in its setting, in its feel जहाँ पर player character and उनके attacks काफ़ी heavy feel होते हैं, and you can see it in enemy stagger जो एक काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट मैकेनिक है इन एनी काइंड ऑफ गेम जिसमें एक रियल टाइम कॉम्बैट सिस्टम है. चाहे हम बात करें FPS, चाहे हम बात करें एक्शन RPG, चाहे बात करें हैक एंड स्लैश गेम्स. Enemy reaction is very important for a combat system because it makes the player feel good. It makes the combat feel good. So it is there. Everything is there to make this combat system very good, and it is very great. And honestly, which is to be expected. We are talking about Capcom जो अपने RKD नेचर के लिए जाने जाते हैं. They have made series like DevilMayCry and Monster Hunter. They know how to design a very good combat system, and DragonsDogma has that thing. Other than that, another mechanic जो DragonsDogma को काफ़ी यूनिक बनाती है compared to other action RPGs specifically is the climbing mechanic जो heavily inspired है Shadow of Colossus से. सो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट एनिमीज इन अदर RPGs. वी हैव फ्रॉम सॉफ्ट गेम्स जहाँ पर हमें कई ह्यूज एनिमीज देखने को मिलते हैं, लाइक ड्रैगन्स, Seize the Skills and any other dragon or any other huge monster or enemy in those games. What we do in those games, like हम enemy के weak point को target करते हैं, and their weak point being a tail for dragon, their foot, that kind of thing. So हमारे पास एक verticality नहीं है in that combat system. We're just it might be a huge monster that we're fighting, but in the end we're just hitting their foot, their tail, and their lower portion of that body. Dragon's Dogma fixes that with this climbing mechanic. You can climb and grab enemies. अगर हम बात करें smaller enemies की, you can grab them and throw them around, throw them in sea. You can do the same thing with their with the paws, जो like एक काफ़ी well known thing है in the Dragon's Dogma community. We do that with our pawn, especially Rook. He deserves that. So you can basically grab smaller enemies and throw them. But अगर हम बात करें bigger enemies की, you can climb them. And it is a very very fun thing to do because you don't get these kind of things in any other action RPG. अगर हम बात करें एक Cyclops की, his weak point is obviously his eye. You can climb his head and slash there, attack, that kind of thing. अगर हम dragons की बात करें, then you will have to target their heart to damage them properly. You will have to climb their body, जो उनका heart है, they are present at their chest or their back. You will have to climb there and attack them there. We have so many other enemies जिनकी like different weaknesses हैं in their different body parts. And like yes, it is a very cool mechanic, and I just hope that after the success of Dragon's Dogma 2, other action RPGs and other games इस mechanic को अपने combat system में include करे, because it can unlock a new dimension in combat. So far जो भी मैंने game के बारे में बात करी होगी, आप सभी को लग रहा होगा it all sounds pretty positive to us, right? Then where are the negatives? Where is that black sheep in the room? What are the cons to the pro? Well, pretty much everything. Dragon's Dogma का वर्ल्ड एंड लोर काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग लगता है. द कॉम्बैट सीम्स क्वाइट ग्रेट. जो RPG मैकेनिक्स है, दे आर देयर. दे आर मैनी डायनामिक मैकेनिक्स. पॉन सिस्टम लुक्स क्वाइट कूल. द क्लाइंबिंग मैकेनिक्स इज वेरी कूल. But the thing is, other than these things, and even in these things, everything is half-baked. The story, the lore are very interesting. No doubt about that. Easily a very cool and very philosophical world, and I love that. But जो presentation है, it is just half-baked. It is not there. It doesn't have the story. Most players will just not even get what the game is about, what the story is about, because of how it being presented in the game. It is very lackluster. जो combat है, while it has a great feel to it, it is very cool. The overall classes, some of them half-baked हैं. Like because most of the classes, especially the hybrid ones, काफ़ी mix and match है other classes के. ऐसे कई mechanics हैं and कई skills हैं जो एक दूसरे में shared है. So they don't really feel completely different like how classes should. They're great, no doubt about that. The game feels great, the combat is great, every single class is good to play. But despite everything, they just don't feel that different, okay? And जो stat system है, it is very flawed. The class you choose will affect your stats. जिस class से आप level up करते हैं, जिस class से आप currently खेल रहे हैं, अगर आप उससे level up करते हैं, then आपके stats उस class के according level up होंगे, and not every single class. So for example, अगर आप एक fighter और वॉरियर क्लास से खेलते हैं, दैन जो मोस्ट ऑफ द लेवल अप स्टैट्स हैं, द अटैक, डैमेज एंड डिफेंस, उस क्लास के अकॉर्डिंग लेवल अप होंगे. एंड व्हेन यू स्विच द क्लास टू सॉर्सरर क्लास, a mage, mystic archer, or magic archer, or any other, then your magic stats will be quite low, your magic damage will be quite low. This stats should have been dynamic according to your classes, which is not. And it kind of makes the combat a bit difficult if you have not leveled up accordingly. Other than that, the overall जो RPG system है, the damage system, it mostly focuses on your armor. Armors are very logged according to your classes, which is fine. Just a personal flaw, because I personally love mixing and matching all of those armors because they look really, really cool. And fashion dogma is a real thing in the Dragon's Dogma community. Check it out. Other than that, जो game के quest हैं, they are very half-baked. Even the main quest, pretty cool concept, pretty cool idea, and some of them are really good, especially the Griffin one, जहाँ हम Blue Moon Tower जाते हैं while adventuring an entire journey, and then we fight the Griffin in a set PC way. Very cool. But there are many other quests जो काफ़ी underbaked हैं. The one with ring, which is like a heavy nod to a lot of the rings, but the boss fight in that is so like underwhelming. The main boss dies in just few hit, and that's it. It is nothing quest. Other than that, जो notice board quest and जो side quests, some of them are interesting, but at the same time still half baked. And especially if we talk about the fetch quest, it's everywhere. The fetch quest is everywhere. They're not interesting. Kill random amount of enemies, collect that random amount of stuff, and give that to certain NPC. They are like very MMORPG-esque. And game में बहुत सारी escort quests है for no damn reason. We don't know why. Must be because the game being padded. So all of these mechanics just stack up to each other and creates a very flawed experience. And we haven't even talked about all of them. Other than these, we have romance mechanic. Game में एक काफ़ी cool romance mechanic है जहाँ पर players pretty much every single NPC से romance कर सकते हैं. Cool, very cool. But how the system is being executed and how it works is very flawed because हर एक NPC की एक ranking है basically. अगर players एक certain NPC से continuously बात करते हैं, उनसे interact करते हैं, then उनकी ranking automatically up जाएगी and they will become और primary romance और primary partner. बट एट द सेम टाइम अगर प्लेयर किसी अदर एनपीसी से सेम तरह से इंटरेक्ट करते हैं देन उनकी रैंक अप चल जाएगी एंड दे विल बिकम द प्राइमरी पार्टनर. सो इट इज़ लाइक वेरी फ्लॉड. इट इज़ नॉट वेरी वेल एक्सिक्यूटेड. वन ऑफ द रीजन्स वाई इन माई लास्ट प्ले थ्रू मेरे पास दो मेन बिलवर्ड थे. द वन दैट बीइंग किडनैप्ड was the right one, Mercedes. I wanted her to be my main romance partner. So for the first romance choice, she was the correct one. But after the end game, if you talk about the ending of the game, जहाँ पर जो second romance partner आता है, that is like different. So it is very flawed. It is very uneven. That is a major difference. अगर हम open world की बात करें, then the world itself is very cool. The overall tone is cool. The architecture, the land, it is very cool and it is worth exploring. There are some secrets there. But the thing is, despite doing everything, the world is not dynamic. The enemy placement and enemy numbers and enemy type are static. आप इस वर्ल्ड को चाहे कितनी बार भी एक्सप्लोर करें, the enemies will be same and you will be fighting the same enemies again and again, which gets repetitive. One of the reasons I personally do in this game is जब मैं एक proper play through कर रहा हूँ, I will explore the world, entire world once. ताकि मैं इन डिफरेंट NPC से फाइट कर सकूँ एंड डिफरेंट एरियाज को एक्सप्लोर कर सकूँ. बट आफ्टर इट आई जस्ट एक्सक्लूसिवली यूज फास्ट ट्रैवल टू गो एंड क्वेस्ट बिकॉज इट्स नॉट वर्थ एक्सप्लोरिंग आफ्टर वंस बिकॉज देर इज नथिंग डायनेमिक अबाउट इट. द ओवरऑल एनिमी प्लेसमेंट एंड वर्ल्ड, it is very static despite being a very beautiful world and having a very good tone to it. So all of these things are just the major problems that drags the game down. And it's a shame. It's a shame because this could have been like one of the best action RPG ever made, but it is not because of all of these flaws. And there is a good reason behind that, which was the cut content. So in the GDC, Game Development Conference for DragonsDogma, it's very good. Please go watch that GDC. It explains everything. And GDC in general, there are some very cool GDCs out there that you should watch. जो हमें गेम डेवलपमेंट के बारे में काफ़ी कुछ सिखाती है. My personal favorite is DragonsDogma 1 GDC because how much it explains why the game is so flawed and like this. So in DragonsDogma 1 GDC, Hideaki is going to explain all of the cut content from DragonsDogma, and it is huge. It is huge. According to different sources, ये cut content approximately 30 to 60% of the entirety of the game. So basically, if it is true, we only have the 40% of the conceptualized concept that was made for this game. And there are so many cool concepts in it, which I will talk about in a bit. So all of these cut content, budget constraints, and development constraints, and the hardware were the reason why this game is so half-baked. But despite every flaw, despite everything, I love this game's story. I love this game's world and atmosphere. The night time especially, जहाँ पर we don't have a moon in the sky and everything is literally pitch black and you will have to use the lantern to explore the world. And it is so like haunting to explore this world in night time because हमारे पास different enemies हैं according to night time. The combat, it feels good, it plays good, everything is great, but everything is half-baked and everything is flawed because of that reason. Which is why I am so excited for DragonsDogma 2. I played this game for the first time in 2018. And I fell in love. Especially because of the combat and the world. It felt just right. The combat felt just right for a person who loved DevilMayCry, जिसके लिए DevilMayCry थी, उसका फर्स्ट DMC गेम था, उस पर्सन के लिए जिसके लिए वो गेम एक न्यू एरा थी of his life. It changed everything. DMC3 changed everything for me. So game that is heavily inspired by DMC in its combat and set of Colossus with its climbing mechanic, with the same director, and playing that game for the first time, it was an experience for me because I'm a person who can play a flawed game. I played Gotham Knight for like approximately 10 to 20 hours, and I loved that despite everything. It has its flaws, but it is a good game. So I don't have any problem with playing a flawed game because अगर तुम्हारा game flawed भी है ना, it might have something there that makes it good. Every game has that. Even an Ubisoft game has a very good world design. The way Ubisoft designs their world, the architecture, the culture, everything. Even Ubisoft games have something that makes those games worth playing. And it's same with DragonsDogma. Actually, it has a lot of things that makes it worth playing. And DragonsDogma 2 basically will be DragonsDogma 1 but finally completed. You can say it is a soft reboot, not even a proper sequel. It is a soft reboot of the first game जहाँ पर हमें most of these cut content देखने को मिलेंगे in the sequel. And what are these content again? Different races, beastren and human. You can play as 2 races. We have different races in the world like elves, beastrens, might even have some orcs because of DragonsDogma Online में थे, the MMORPG of the series, जो Japan exclusive था, and it was shut down in 2019. So we might have different races. The जो overall game world है, it feels fully fleshed out. We might have some cut content like the moon. So basically in lore, DragonsDogma का world एक multiverse है, and in that multiverse there is just one moon, and वो एक moon, spoiler alert, skip the video to that part. So basically that moon is the world of Sinantial, basically the god of DragonsDogma universe. And in one of the end game हम उस moon पर जाते हैं. It's basically a big dungeon and we fight through that dungeon and fight the god of DragonsDogma universe to take his place as god. And that is so cool. That is like such a cool thing. Other than that, we had an endless tower, जो basically एक series of multiple dungeons थी, working as a tower जहाँ पर players उसे climb करते थे, fighting different enemies. That particular aspect is still present in the end game of DragonsDogma as Everfall, जहाँ पर हमारे पास multiple dungeons हैं and we can fight different enemies in that dungeon, जो specifically उस dungeon में available है. So that kind of is still there but not fully, and many other things like that. We had the world was supposed to be quite big, much more bigger than this, twice as much. So like there is this entire chunk of cut content that could have made this game even more amazing. We're talking about a director जिसने मेरे childhood की some of the best games develop किए हैं, DMC3, DMC4. He has developed some of the best fighting games out there for fighting community. He knows what he wanted, but due to some unforeseen consequences, some of the other things in development, he wasn't able to finish his vision for the first game. And finally, after so many years, after bringing back DMC series, yes, DMC5 is amazing. We need another DMC game soon, remake or a mainline one, I don't care. So after directing DMC5, after almost 11 to 12 years of the release of DragonsDogma, we're finally getting a game. We're finally getting a proper sequel to the first game that will finally, complete his vision of that first game. And ये reason है कि why I'm so excited for that game and why it is so important for Capcom, because it is their second open world RPG and first one in RE engine. By the way, full form of RE engine is not Resident Evil engine. It is very common mistake everyone makes. It is actually Reach to the Moon engine. The reason why the logo is a hand that is, it's like that, grabbing the moon kind of thing. It is Reach to the Moon engine. So it is like the first proper open world game in Reach to the Moon engine, and it is introducing a lot of new things in its world. It is being very dynamic. जहाँ तक हमें कुछ डेवलपर इंटरव्यूज़ मिले हैं जो इस गेम के बारे में काफ़ी बात कर रहे हैं, how it is so dynamic, and everything is making me excited, and I'm happy for both Capcom and especially for Hideaki Itsuno-san, because he finally got to fully envision his vision. He finally made his dream game, and I'm really excited for that. And that is why I love Dragon's Dogma, and that is why it is such an important game. Whew. This was a long one. Also, a certain thing I forgot to talk about, the end game. It is a very big part of Dragon's Dogma. Jहाँ पर after defeating the main dragon, the almighty, the amazing Gregory, he's a very cool dragon. Might just be the best dragon in gaming in general. One of the coolest one at least. तो ग्रिगोरी को हराने के बाद द वर्ल्ड चेंजेस, द एंटायर ओपन वर्ल्ड ऑफ ड्रैगन्स डॉगमा चेंजेस, जहाँ पर हमें इवन मोर हायर लेवल एनिमीज देखने को मिलते हैं, सम न्यू एनिमी स्पॉन्स एंड डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स लाइक दैट. एंड हमारे लिए एवर वॉल ओपन होता है एज आई टोल्ड बिफोर, जहाँ पर प्लेयर्स को न्यू डंजन्स एंड एनिमीज से फाइट करने का मौका मिलता है. बट अदर दैन दैट, in 2013 we got a different version of Dragon's Dogma, which is called Dark Arisen. It introduced the Dark Arisen expansion pack DLC, Bitter Black Isles, जो basically एक काफ़ी big dungeon है with a lot of new content, a lot of new enemies and a lot of new gear. It's basically Dragon's Dogma with its best aspect, which is combat. There is exploration, but it is not an open world. तो तुम बेसिकली एक बड़ा सारा डंजन एक्सप्लोर कर रहे हो विद डिफरेंट रूम्स विद वेरी 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 टफ एनिमीज एंड अ न्यू स्टोरी, एंड इट इज़ लाइक द बेस्ट पार्ट ऑफ ड्रैगन्स डॉगमा. सो इफ यूर प्लानिंग टू प्ले ड्रैगन्स डॉगमा बिफोर और आफ्टर द रिलीज ऑफ ड्रैगन्स डॉगमा 2, प्लीज डोंट फॉरगेट टू एक्सप्लोर बिटर ब्लैक आइल्स. आई फाइनली अंडरस्टैंड व्हाई मोस्ट पीपल डोंट मेक दीज काइंड ऑफ वीडियोज. इट इज़ हार्ड टू मेक. लेट्स फॉरगेट एवरीथिंग. What are your thoughts and opinions on Dragon's Dogma 1, and especially how excited are you for Dragon's Dogma 2? That is a game I'm personally been waiting for ever since 2018, so it means a lot for me. It was my most anticipated video after DMC 5, which again, DMC is my one of my all-time favorite series. So after DMC 5, Dragon's Dogma 2 was the most anticipated game for me. After it, I don't know, because ये kind of end game है, you know. Most of us in Dragon's Dogma community were not expecting to get this game, and we surprisingly got. So we never really imagined this will happen. Despite knowing that, yeah, it sold really well and everything, it's just that feeling. And we finally got this game, and it feels like a dream, honestly. एक गेम जिसको आप इतना पसंद करते हो, एक गेम जो इतना अंडर अप्रिशिएट, इतना नीश है for reasons, for very good reasons, and finally got a sequel. Pretty good. And that sequel looks like it will be huge. It might just change a lot of things in action RPG genre. It might just, and yeah, I'm really excited for Dragon's Dogma 2, as you can tell. Either way, I just hope you really like this video. I know इस video में बहुत सारे flaws हैं. This is the first time I'm shooting something like this for this video, and for the first time entirely alone. So there will be problem with the editing. You will see some rough cuts and that kind of thing. I apologize for that sincerely. I will fix it in future. I will just get used to doing these kind of videos, and yeah. Thank you for watching this entire video till now, and I appreciate it. Channel को subscribe कीजिए, like कीजिए, video को share कीजिए, all the YouTube thing. I just personally don't like saying these kind of things, so just do it yourself. And give me some suggestions. How can I improve all of these things in the comment section? Okay, so after Dragon's Dogma 2, what is my most anticipated game right now? Ghost of Tsushima PC. Of course. It's coming soon. I'll play it. Witcher 4, Witcher Polaris to be accurate, and Cyberpunk Orion. Other than these, I don't know which game are in my list. Monster Hunter Wilds, it looks very cool. I'm not a huge Monster Hunter fan for now. I have only played Monster Hunter World approximately 50 to 60 hours. I will play the series before the release of Wilds. I'm excited for Wilds because Monster Hunter is one of a kind series, and it's Capcom in the end. I'm a Capcom fanboy, you can say that. So yeah, these are the most anticipated game in my list. What about you guys? Tell me everything in the comment section, and thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care of yourself. Bye.